Why do they keep lying to us like this? This is the end of everything. Don't you just love when a plan comes together? This line immortalized by the late George Peppard. I don't know how many of you guys grew up watching that show, but that was one of my favorite shows. That and Knight Rider. But this was a team of veterans who help the innocent while they run from authorities. Anyway, this isn't a series review, but we could sure use their help right now. In today's video, we're going to discuss the government's plan to combat inflation. You guys cannot miss what they had to say. And we're also going to talk about how inflation is making it harder for us to work in the office. Now, as more companies are scrapping their work from home setup and American workers start to go back to the office, a sudden and rude awakening has hit our wallets. Yep, nothing is worth the same anymore. When the health crisis hit, businesses, they had to adapt and trust their workers to be more productive from home. And although this meant less interaction, it also meant that we could save a lot of money on stuff. Stuff like gas, food, daycare, daily commutes. Heck, you can even save time because you didn't have to prepare to leave and sit in traffic for an hour one way. But as we come back to our normal lives in the office, all of these expenses are back with a vengeance. Heck, it'll cost you more today to go to work than it did 2 years ago. The index for food away from home increased by 7% in the last year. Food prices were also up 9.4% last April. This was the biggest jump since 1981, and grocery store prices spiked 10.8%. That's why this added cost is called lunchflation. Very apt if you ask me. Kelly McClay, who lives in Potomac, Maryland, stated this: "Lunchflation is 100% real. Everything is more expensive. Before, you could get lunch for $7 to $12. I don't know if I've ever paid $12 for lunch, or maybe I'm just cheap. I don't know. Now there is no way that you can get a decent lunch for less than $15. Alright, so I'm out. I'm not paying $15 to eat lunch at work. That's just ridiculous. Okay, so just some advice, and you guys, you can take it or not. Completely up to you. Listen up. Bring your own lunch. I had a friend who was so broke that all he had to eat was a piece of bread and the free coffee in the office. He vowed that it would never happen again, and he started cooking his own lunch at night and heating it up the next day at work. Saved himself a ton of money and never looked back. Another expense that's really digging into the wallets of American workers each day is gas, especially if your office is a bit far from home. The advice I can give here is pretty easy. Use a bike instead, or carpool. The situation that we're all living in right now is so unique, and it's actually quite intricate. With such a barrage of financial problems all being thrown at us at the same time, we gotta be creative and save money wherever we can. Comment down below if you guys have any kind of creative ways that helped you save money in the last 2 years. I would love to hear from it, and it would also totally help out our community. We got 300,000 YouTube family members here, so let's get the game plans out and let's help each other out. Now, speaking of plans, President Joe Biden just gave his plan to fight inflation just in time. It's only late o'clock in the evening right now. This is something that baffles me every day though. It's like the government keeps waiting for issues and problems to become so severe they have no choice but to step in. Whatever happened to preventative maintenance? But let me give you a scenario. So imagine an unsupervised candle that's lit. The flame is so small that a flick of your wrist could actually put it out, right? But the government sees it and says, it's a small problem. It's gonna work itself out. The flame starts to hit the curtains and then starts to spread. Instead of getting the fire extinguisher, they said, that's normal. It'll work itself out. Fine. Your whole apartment's catching on fire, and the adjacent building is now affected. Then they suddenly turn and say, hey, let's get the fire department on this because, we need to act now. I mean, seriously? And if you want to know the president's plan on inflation, Brian Deese, National Economic Council Director, he discussed it recently.
Well, absolutely. The economy we have right now is in a transition from this period of historic economic growth to a period that can be more stable, resilient growth. That requires focusing on inflation and doing so from a position of relative strength. The U.S. is in a better position than other countries to do so, in part because of the strength of our labor market recovery, the strength of household balance sheets. So that goes to the 3 steps the president laid out. The first is give the Fed the independence and the space that it needs to operate. That is not something that we can take for granted, particularly given past presidents' actions, and the president today will make very clear that that is what he intends to do.
Why do they keep insisting that this is a transition into better days? If any of you guys believe that this is a transition period, please go ahead and comment down below. If not, like this video. And also, give the Fed freedom? Kind of like freedom to create one of the worst housing bubbles in history? Yeah, anyway, he further adds these next 2 steps.
The second is to lower costs, make things more affordable for families during this transition period. And we are taking every step that we can to do so. Releasing oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, as you mentioned, building more affordable housing supply, reducing internet bills, growing more crops in the U.S. to increase supply of food and bring down prices. All of those are steps that we can take right now. And
again, the government is merely reacting to what's happening. They never act when there's still time. It's like they choose for us to experience these downturns. Oh wait, was any of this planned? No. Which brings us to this last step.
Third is about bringing down the federal deficit. That will reduce price pressures. We've made a lot of progress on that front. Deficit down $1.5 trillion so far this year. We can do more. We need Congress's help on that front, but that's going to be our priority.
Do you know what takes the cake with this entire plan? It's that they're lying to us, and they're not even trying to hide it. Isn't it also weird that everything that he said was pretty vague? There wasn't a lot of specifics discussed. And before some of you react negatively to what I'm saying, I want you to think deep down, and if you want, replay what D said. It was like someone saying that they were going to lose weight, and when you asked how, they just answered by saying, oh, I'll eat less. Our country's economic downturn is being stretched out. We're not sure if it's by design or if it's part of a plan, but one thing is for certain. There are no solutions in place, and it seems as if we're stuck to fend for ourselves until the near future. But what are you guys' thoughts on this? Because everything that we talked about today affects almost every American in our country. Let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments down below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so that you never have to worry about missing my daily uploads.